Welcome back to Shall You Proceed? I have missed you all dearly. I know you have missed me. Once again, I'm your host, Erlene. And this show is all about society, relationships, health and wellness, culture, and also bringing you people who are doing phenomenal things during this time for the culture, for society, for everyone. And today is no different. I have with me today an 11-time best-selling author, survivor, motivational speaker, professor, all-around yummy individual. I have with me Dr. Eddie Connor. Round of applause. Round of applause. Welcome, Dr. Connor. How are you?
What an honor it is to be able to be on your show. Shall we proceed? Yes, indeed. You got it all locked and loaded. E-lease and listen, I'm on a lease tonight, so I love it. Honored to be able to share.
Listen, I am so honored to have you here. You have no idea because besides all 11 books that you have out that range from wife and marriage and everything, and you have been on numerous publications, you have been on numerous TV and television, BET, CBS, Ebony, Fox. I mean, I saw you on Steve Harvey. We're going to talk about that. Yeah, I saw you on Steve Harvey. We're going to discuss it. TD Jates MegaFest. You have your own, or you did have your own show at one time on, is it TDC Network? Am I correct?
TCT. TCT Network, yeah.
Yes, and you have won amazing awards. You have shook hands with some wonderful leaders, our former President Barack Obama. Okay, but and you're a survivor. You're an island boy. You're from Kingston, Jamaica. Big up.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying? So you're, for such a young man, you have been through so much. At 15, you were diagnosed with cancer. You survived that, but that you carry that with you because I know that's life-changing, not just for you, but for family and everyone. And it changes maybe your vision or whatever what you think you want to do at 15 or 14, and then it's like, life happens. Before we get into all of that, and I want everyone I want you to tell everyone, because clearly I didn't do you justice, who you are, and how awesome you are and what's going on with you, Dr. Connor.
Well, listen, I need to check my whole bio again. I'm wondering, am I actually who you introduced? I'm honored by that. I'm from the east side of Detroit by way of Kingston, Jamaica. And as we say in Detroit, what up, though? And so to go through and grow through a lot of odds and obstacles, as you mentioned, 2020 marks 20 years of me being cancer free, and to not look what I've been through, and understand your test of testimony, your misery is ministry, your mess a message, your stumbling block is a stepping stone. What God does, He uses your setback as a setup for your greatest comeback. And so to be able to beat the odds and the obstacles is a blessing, and just to be a servant leader is really what it's all about. And any way to flip the page, write a new chapter, and help people to overcome obstacles is my claim to fame, and really what my heart's desire is, to see people better their lives.
And I appreciate everything that you manifest and that you do. And for someone to realize their purpose alone is wonderful, because so many of us walk through life right now just really wondering, even more so this year, because this year has been a beast. You're wondering your purpose, what's going on. And so how has COVID been for you and your family? How has this year made you pivot, stronger, rethink? What has this been for you this year so far?
Boy, it's been a breakthrough year. I mean, from Black Lives to Black Mamba to Black Panther, 2020 has been some kind of a year. And, I wrote a book, which I released January 20th, 2020.
Yes.
And I was writing it in 2019 called 2020 Vision. Everybody, that was their moniker. I said, let me go ahead and put my little spin on it. And really, I wrote what I didn't realize we would be living through. The caption of the book
Right.
is how to see beyond what you see and transform your reality. And one of the chapters in my book is called Forsaking the Familiar.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that normal is not behind us, normal is ahead of us. And in the midst of, 50 million people filing for unemployment, 200,000 plus individuals who have died from COVID-19, to see friends and loved ones of mine who have passed on from the whole COVID aspect, racism since 1619 to COVID-19. I mean, just so much that we're trying to grapple and live through and grow through. And I realize, the most dangerous place in life that you can be is not when you're walking on water, is when you're staying in the boat. And
Whew.
to really do something different when life is now different, is not returning back to what it was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the movie industry is different now. The churches are different now. They're slated, 33% of them are slated to close. The whole business aspect, when you're thinking about 40% of Black business owners are slated not to even make it through COVID-19. Life is just totally different now. And so I got to rethink something different. I got to reimagine so that I can build something different out of what it is that we're experiencing. And so I think those who are literally on the cutting edge thinking about how to shift with the times are going to be the forerunners to create something for the future. And so uh, I'm not going to panic. I'm going to pivot. I'm not going to panic. I'm going to prosper. I'm not going to panic. I'm going to plan it. I'm not going to panic. I'm literally going to find peace in the midst of this and find provision for my vision.
And that sounds amazing,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes a lot because, there's many of us, in this world, put aside Black, white, blue, brown, whatever ethnic group you may be. When we live here, we are embedded in arrogance and entitlement. And in my opinion, 2020 has really opened many people's eyes to, you are not far from this. You are not far from that. And like you said, you have to pivot, but it was awakening. It was eye-opening. And many who thought they were grounded, they were not. Many who didn't think they were, they're thriving and they're surviving. And I take 2020, just as you said, you have to pivot and make a way. You have to, pull it up, suck it up, and say, okay, what do I do? And you notice companies now realizing you can work from home. They're realizing
Right.
also, I do not need this big workforce, and right now we're having people laid off, furloughed, not getting called back to their jobs. And school alone is the frustration for parents and educators who didn't have a summer. They've been working year round now, just trying to figure out technology. And I think now there's appreciation for people who used to get looked over and looked under. And right now we have to say to ourselves, I can't woe is me. I can't say it's only me. And I have to finish this out and hopefully come into 2021 stronger and better and wiser. And also acknowledge what 2020 has forced me to see. For me, 2020 has been, because you and I have already known this and we live it because we're people of color, we're Black, what we've always known and what we've always witnessed and what we've always felt. And what I appreciate for this year, it has made those who were able to turn the channel, hop in their car and drive away, they can't ignore. It's everywhere. And that brings me to your new book right now. I want to talk about your amazing book, America, I Can't Breathe, right?
AmerICan'tBreathe, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. That is red, white, blue, Black Lives Matter, and what was the other tag? I'm sorry.
Unmasking Race in America. Yep. Red,
Unmasking.
white, blue, black lives and Unmasking Race in
Yes.
America.
So let's talk about what brought you here, because you released a book at the beginning of January, beginning of this year, called the 2020. Now you have this. I read the book. What I love about your book, the way it's set up, it's easy to digest. It's not, you know how some books, when you read them about race or what is going on in the world, it's clinical. You feel like you're back in school. You're I mean, let's just call it what it is. You're trying real hard. You're trying real hard to finish it, and it's clinical and it's hard. I can't get through it. But what I love about your book, because I have it right here, what I love about your book
I love it.
is how easy it is to get into. Each section, each chapter, they have sections that break it down. How worried were you about writing this book? Because if you're not someone grounded in your faith in some way, the way you start your references with scripture, everyone may not be able to attach to that. So let's talk about why that formatting and what brought you to this book.
Yeah, this is my 11th book, and I've never done 2 books in a year. I generally will only do one, especially with the last 5-6 years that I've released pretty much every year. But in the wake of George Floyd, in the wake of Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, I just could not literally sleep, and felt like, how in the world, for 400 plus years, have we been able to even breathe in these yet to be United States of America? And I coupled it with 2020, yes, the vision, but also 2020 marketing 20 years of me being cancer free. And I remember, after experiencing chest pains and oftentimes vulnerability, masculinity cannot coexist in the same space, as a Black man in this nation, I was grappling with what I found out was stage 4 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And I remember gasping for air, saying, I can't breathe. And I thought it was just for the cancer aspect, but it was, in many cases, I was also a target in the eyes of America as a Black male growing up.
Right.
But then I faced racial backlash, even in the hospital ward, to where I saw how I was treated differently than white patients as a kid. And I'm just starting my life trying to live.
You're just trying to survive right now. Yes.
I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not getting the type of love in the treatment as I saw fellow white counterparts getting, who may have been younger, same age, or even older than me. And then when you just think about it, George Floyd said 11 times, I can't breathe. Eric Garner said 11 times, I can't breathe. This became my 11th book to a certain degree. And to hear even racism is a public health crisis, as I was grappling with my own crisis. And to think about what is going on in this nation, from not just COVID-19, COVID 45 of what we're experiencing, the virus in the White House, as there is a virus in the White House.
Yeah.
Right. And so just unwrapping all of this and looking at it from the aspect of the economic base, as Black people have a $1.3 trillion buying power, but will only spend 1% of our resources with people who look like us. But you think about the wealth inequality gap. You think about the lack of appreciation in education. Then you're dealing, of course, with police brutality and the ongoing epidemic of what has taken place in this nation. So while we're in a pandemic, we're in a pandemic. And so it was only right for me to write about what it is that we're experiencing, but also be able to unravel it and find a way to move forward through it.
And what I like about it is, like, one of your sections called the Americas, where you're talking about the media and how the media and the headlines pretty much is just attacking the Black community. They're always attacking us, talking about the Black on Black crime and feeding into that narrative. And then, as we've also learned now with media and how it works and the algorithm of, you only see what you believe. They never show you all sides of things unless Unless, I mean, in case you didn't hear that, what we realize, there's documentaries out right now where if you always look into certain things, conspiracy theorists, you're only going to see that side of the media. You'll never see the other side of media if you're only looking at social media and all those different, things. But, the way we've been depicted in media for so long, Black men, you're a target. You are the enemy. You are dangerous. Even from entertainment, from the beginning of film, you've been depicted as beast, and it's trickled down, and it's embedded in all of us, the negative narrative. And this year has shined a light on that narrative is wrong, and there's not. You're being killed and attacked, and for you to recognize at young age not getting the help in the hospitals. Black women have been dealing with that forever. We have been, tested on, like think of Henrietta Lacks, tested on and thought that you don't feel pain, you're not really sick. Many of us have died or lost our children based on, because we're Black, you can handle these the pain in these things. And also for me, I think the white woman right now is the biggest the biggest enemy, because what we saw happened in the park with a gentleman who's trying to watch birds, and just calling the cops on our Black men. It's interesting how this has played out, and it's not stopping. You would think when you see things, it would stop, and we're still seeing things happen over and over again. How do you feel with all of the imagery and what's still going on and what we still keep seeing? Have you become numb to it? How do you see yourself going into 2020 and trying to address these issues?
Great question. And I think continually seeing that Black skin is a sin in this nation, and where this nation is literally on life support because it refuses to deal with its original sin, which is the enslavement of Black bodies. And we see in many cases how the Black body is always profitable. The Black body, if it bleeds, it leads in media. And generally at that is always in many cases a Black body, if it is even excoriating the whole aspect or exacerbating the whole notion of Black on Black crime, but not white on white crime, or even dealing with crime is always committed in proximity to where someone lives in its community. And so to really just unravel all of this and look at the skewed sense of fake media, fake news, that is not only just indicative on the TV screens, but even on our cell phones, to where now in many cases we become psychologically locked in to what is perpetuated against us in a skewed structural hierarchical society that only in many cases uplifts rich white landowning men, which is in many cases has been indicative since the Constitution, much less the Declaration of Independence.
And been written into law that, of course, into laws that we're not allowed to live certain places, own anything. They keep us constantly having to be enslaved in the system, regulating where we live, regulating where we can work, what we can do, where we can enter, where we can sit. It continues, to the point you have the Green Book where it's telling you where to travel, where not to travel, where to worry about, what not to worry about. It was legal to kill us. And that's how the police started. You had the ones who went to go hunt the escaped slave, So there's a part in your there's a part in your book that you The Road to Reconstruction, where you say poor whites and poor Blacks must come together. Why do you feel so?
Well, I think one of the things is when you think about this president who sets a perverse precedent, in many cases, he has tapped into non-college graduating whites. He's tapped into those who, in many cases, are on the poverty level, much less whose voices are not being heard. But in many cases, they are making no more type of upward mobility than we are as Black people. In many cases, it is what Dr. King mentioned, Jim Crow being a psychological bird, to where just because of your skin complexion, you seemingly get an edge up, but you really don't, because the main color is green. And if you don't have that, you can't get into certain doors anyway. And so the whole aspect of whiteness and white privilege is still shrouded in white fragility. Are you only strong because of the color of your skin, but now your money can't even hold you?
Mm-hmm.
Are you only strong because you live in a suburban neighborhood and now you're able to, in many cases, quote unquote, safeguard yourself and keep others out because of redlining and redistricting? And so I
Right.
think it really gets down to the whole aspect that the power of white supremacy is shrouded in this type of white rage and is used really as a token of compensation for their poverty. You're not making any type of upward mobility economically. So what do I have to do now? My skin becomes seemingly a token that now I can begin to connect to a president who really is not for me at all, but seemingly is for me because he looks like me. And so I think the whole aspect of suppressing freedom is now being in a place of waging war with white supremacy. And this is what we're seeing, whether it's with tiki torches, or whether
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing that on a place where the law enforcement does not enforce the law in regard to Black bodies, where walls get more justice than a
Mm-hmm.
Black woman by the name of Breonna Taylor. This is what we're seeing in these divided states of America.
And recently, I'm sure you heard where that one juror came through. The judge allowed that person to speak out on what really happened during that case, and not being able to truly, I guess, voice or speak how the way it came about was really not how it happened in the jury room. And
Right, right.
I'm now worried for that for that person coming forward. And I'm wondering now how many more cases happened one way in the jury room, but when they came
Mhm.
out, the decision was not made based on what they thought. And I'm wondering now, I really wonder, when you have people who do not look like us, but like you say, the poor whites, the poor and the poor whites and blacks. I wonder if it's the issue of they don't want to listen. They're very defensive in their listening. We're trying to explain
Mhm.
to them and show them historically what's wrong, but they just do not want to acknowledge. It's constant. That wasn't me. I didn't. I struggled. When it's clearly written in the very minimal history that people they teach what was going on in this country. And I'm not able to understand how they can support such nonsense. You know what I
Right.
mean? Such nonsense. And
Mhm.
it has been embedded in us to survive. Get out, survive, don't come back. Don't look back. I sacrifice for you to have better. If you can pass, pass. If you can get away, and play the game to get at that table and keep playing the game. And as long as you have the green, we saw it with the Jeffersons, right? He thought once he came on up and had that money,
That's
he'd have
true.
some type of
Right.
privilege. And that didn't stop anybody, Archie, from still calling it what he called him, and what we noticed was, as we progress, they added more on the rules.
Mhm.
As we
Mhm.
moved forward and broke barriers and
Right.
busted through ceilings, they made more changes and they made more rules to where it's like Tyler Perry said, I'm gonna build my own table. Forget it. I'm not trying to
Absolutely.
get you. I'm building my own table. And you're clearly building your own table. Clearly.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And so, building your own table, and then also building a longer table, not a taller fence, and then
Mm-hmm.
bringing chairs and telling people pull up, literally, I think is really the way to go. With it, that we got to really create our own, and even though we do create our own, we still face hurdles. You think about Black Wall Street,
Yeah.
1921, the as we're coming up on the 100th centennial commemoration of that next year, where they
Mm-hmm.
had clothiers, where they had theaters, they had their own schools, they had their own laundromats, they had this, that, and the other, their own offices. and they were burned down in many cases by the government, by the United States
And people
government,
still don't believe it
perpetuated
happened.
against them and bombed them.
And people still don't believe it happened. Look at Central Park and where that is, what that was turned into. What it was before a park was a thriving few blocks of a community, minding their business, taking care of their own. And what was it turned into? A park. Everything we have has been taken away. But let me ask you this. What backlash or negativity have you gotten from the book? Or have you only gotten great positivity, great feedback from it?
Listen, this would be another show. I've been called.
I had to ask.
I faced no backlash the first 10 books at all. You know, when I was writing about loving yourself, knowing your worth, and relationships, and overcoming cancer, and finding your purpose, many of those books. But when I began to talk about race, when I really began to talk about the elephant in the room, I've been called a communist and a Marxist. And I've been called that. I was doing a YouTube live, and I could see the comments coming in real time.
Yeah.
To where the maggots came out, you know, and I told them, MAGA ought to be make anti-racism great again. And to the refreshing thing is this: the other day, and I'm gonna post it online soon. I got a DM. Somebody was up in my DM, and I got I got a correspondence from a man. Opens it up. I'm a Trump supporter. I said, "Oh my goodness, let me keep on reading." It was a long old list, and he goes on and says, "You know, I've read the book, and I do agree with you that we need to make a greater consideration for Black lives. I don't agree with everything that the president says, but then he says this: I hope that you consider running for president one day."
Sir,
I said,
slow down. Thank you.
I said, not to be a target of you at all, but I was really surprised that even though he's on the in many cases maybe the alt-right, his mind is altered a little bit to really opening up his eyes to really make consideration for who he considers to be the least of these
and
people who look like me.
The other day that I feel you have Republicans and you have Trump supporters. It's true. I don't want to put them in the same bucket because, you know, there's many Republicans who do not agree with anything he has to say or do. And they are like, this is, you know, we thought wrong. You know what I mean? And it's hard to go against that. And I don't want anyone lumping me into one category or the other. So I try not to lump all of them because it's all about just common sense, safety, and just being a good person. And it's forget about political party. This is not a good person. And clearly when he tweets every day on them steroids from medication or whatever, and I don't even tweet. It's just like, it's way too much. It's way too much. So
I'm sure
you have had a little bit of backlash from the book, but also some major positivity. Is it doing what you want it to do? Or if it's not, how do you want to piggyback off of it and go further into 2021?
You know, it is doing what I wanted to do. It is a clarion call to make people think. You don't have to think like me. But I wanted to push the envelope. And I think in this day and time and age that we just can't stay silent. I think silence is violence. Silence is betrayal. I think you have to cry aloud and spare it not in whatever form that you do. If you write poetry, do it. If you a speaker, do that. If you are a radio host like yourself, if you have this platform to be able to create your own media, I think we've got to lend our space and place to begin to speak about, in many cases, things that are hard to talk about. As you mentioned, the hard truths. get into the unadulterated aspect of what things are in life. And so I think you're on the wrong side of history. A lot of people say, well, if I lived in the 60s, I wonder what I would do. Check the record now. Whatever you're doing now is what you would do then. And so to be relevant, to be radical, to be revolutionary, and do something different and pivot in a different way, even if you are specifically kind of cut and paste with the norm of what you would write about or speak about or talk about. I wanted to totally go off the cliff with it and just let people know what has been brewing on the inside of me. I've always known in many cases and had dealings with racism, from being pulled over to a police officer who wanted not even my license, wanted to see the title of the car, who been called the N-word in school, to being mistreated by professors because I didn't get the certain grade that I should have been given based upon the color of my skin. Dealing with all of that. And I think just all of it being bottled up, the pain on the paper was my portal to really talk about what it is that we are talking about. And it's so great that my brothers and sisters and people who don't even look like me are supporting the book.
So let me ask you this. Did you feel as if when you did receive backlash, it was coming from a place of you don't know your place? I've noticed when I try really hard myself not to be placed in a box. I like to be fluid. So it can't be, Erlene, know your place. No, my place is everywhere. Right. Sorry. But when it's everywhere, I'm a force to be reckoned with. Have you realized that when it comes to people who are very faith-based in their message, their platform, that it comes into the whole, you're a good one, know your place. So now you're stepped out of, like you said, the first 10 books was a clear kind of message. This is a far departure, but when you read it, it's still very weaved into who you are and your message. Every section you preface with a scripture, like you relate it right back to your teachings from your life. So I wonder did you feel as if they were trying to tell you in a nice way, know your place, like LeBron, just dribble the ball. You shouldn't be doing all these things. Do you think, where it came from?
I think so. I think, the shut up and write type of aspect, what you're used to writing, stay on your paper plantation.
Yeah.
Don't go off too far from that. I think that's in many cases where it came from. And, if the oppressor or if the opposing forces can mute our voice, if you think about 2020, if you think about it, even in Hebrew, 2020 means the year of the mouth. It's interesting, for the last 8 months, 7-8 months, we've been told to cover our mouth, right? Because, and I think it goes into a different aspect of the mask. We're taking off the mask, but leaving on the mask. But now we wear a mask, but we don't wear a muzzle.
Yeah.
And I think right about now is the time where, if we have been muzzled, now is the time to find the key, to rip that muzzle off, to begin to speak truth to power, because I don't think we can really play sides anymore.
No.
We're getting hit on all sides. And I think now we have to lift our voice and do something different. And yes, I'll weave it all into it. And I think scripture speaks to all of it, even though the Bible was used as a place to enslave Black people. And they had something called a slave Bible, which only had, I think, maybe as much as 30% of the original work that was in the Bible. And they only used the scriptures that said, servants, obey your masters, as a way to treat Black bodies as cargo.
Yep.
It was the African bishop who mentioned, and his name eludes me right now. He said, when the white missionaries, quote unquote, white missionaries, really slave masters came to Africa, he said, we had the land and they had the Bible. They told us to kneel and pray. And after we prayed, they had the land and we had the Bible.
Bible, yeah.
So to be able to use religion as a way to subjugate human beings, we've seen that throughout human civilization. And we are not ignorant, as scripture would say, of Satan's devices.
Let me ask you, does it bother you, and answer if you want to, you don't, does it bother you how so many people, Black people, have, for whatever reason, but let's just to talk about the use of the Bible against Black people, pulled away from Christianity, pulled away from their faith because of it? And that's when I asked you about the book and how it's very intertwined with scripture. I mean, every section you're going to get a reference to scripture. Have you noticed people who've pulled away from that? How have they received your book?
I think they have received it in a way that is, I try to give at least a healthy balance, not to be too overly religious in the book, but I still wanted to bring it into the place because as a people, we are very religious people. Whether that be Christianity or whether that be some form of spirituality, or for those involved in mysticism, whatever the case may be. And so I think when you bring that to the whole aspect, because Christianity, for lack of a better word, has been categorized oftentimes as a white man's religion.
Yes.
And scriptures in many cases subversively have been used to subjugate Black bodies. But even in the Old Testament in Egypt, the second book of the Bible is about the Exodus from Egypt.
Yep.
You think about the Ethiopian eunuch in chapter 8 of Acts, speaks about a man who was learned, a man of great authority, a man who was literate, but his influence led to Christianity flourishing throughout Ethiopia for at least 1800 years prior to slavery. So it's how the word was used to create a way to subjugate and shackle and lead to chattel slavery. And so the whole aspect of scriptures and Christianity did not just come into place because of slavery. It was already there 1800 years prior to that. And so to bring that to the whole aspect, but also to make it not only just historical, but also contemporary. I think that's in many cases where the dialogue came in, just to create a book that has historical references, that gives us a future forward, but to create conversation, I think has been the breakthrough about it.
I interviewed someone a few months ago, and he wrote a book, and to me, it should be like in history classes. It's lined out so beautifully. And he was just saying how you have to flip it. You know, we're reading in the mindset of the enslaved. Now just flip that. That's all you have to do, and flip it. Stop still looking at it as you're enslaved, and read the Bible as it flows through you, not as the person who's being enslaved. You're not unenslave your mind to read the text and realize the reward from it.
Absolutely.
So
you have to. Dr. James Cone, one of the great, Dr. James Cone, who's the father of Black theology, mentions not reading the book as how Trump held it, backwards from the top down. But I think you got to read it from the bottom up. You know, God always sides with those who are the least, the lost, the last, the left out, the overlooked, the underserved, and the underrepresented. That's our exodus, so to speak. And so being able to read it from the whole aspect of a re-crucified Christ, as he would say, I think that's where you see it as a place of overcoming oppression.
Right.
When you think about that throughout the Old Testament, when you think about that even into the New Testament, how grace suspends the rules, overcoming oppression, I think that becomes the whole aspect. And when you think about it, Jesus, an unarmed black man who was assassinated and executed by a corrupt Roman government and placed as a public spectacle, and he never received any justice.
Never. Never.
And so to be able to create and categorize and even amalgamate and even bring together Jesus and justice, that's the most revolutionary piece about this.
And I really want to thank you for writing this book, because it's so needed, and it's not just for Black people or people of color. It's for everyone to read, because I'm tired of explaining to people who don't look like me what's going on. I'm like, let me just hand you a book. Like, let me just, here you go. I can't. So because I'm just gonna stop being polite. It's just like, here's a book. Right. Keep it. I'll order another one. Here you go. So let me ask you this, because besides being an amazing author, I plan on ordering your other 10 books and reading. I need to get into the mind of Dr. Connor. I want to ask you I want to ask you about Boys to Books. And how do you see that work going forward? And how do you plan on, with social distancing and everything going on, and now our young kids are really aware of what the world is out right now for our young Black men. How do you plan on continuing and either reshaping Boys to Books?
Such a profound question. You know, I have a love for literacy, and it just dawned on me. I have an epiphany. I just had an epiphany just now. My mother became a teacher because there was a kid in her classroom as she was a child who could not read, and he was teased.
Oh, wow.
I realized I became a teacher, not really thinking that maybe that might have had something to do with hearing her story, much less seeing how our brothers are passed through school, not more than just a dropout rate. There's in many cases a push out rate, because I don't want to teach him how to read, because I don't want to teach him how to know his ABCs, much less his mathematics. I just push him on and say, I'll let you handle Martez. I'll let you handle Jamar and Jamal, right? And I find out that the most illiterate person, not the one who can't read, is the one who can read but won't read. And so being able to allow our brothers to have culturally relevant literature to where they see their lives reflected in what they read. We want them to all read The Great Gatsby because it's seemingly indoctrinated in our school system.
Okay.
But maybe we need to give them a book that speaks to their greatness.
Yes.
Right. And it speaks to the ills of society and how they're able to overcome obstacles despite growing up in maybe a tough environment or losing a parent or whatever the case may be. And so just really building that Boys to Books as a bridge to help our young men matriculate and make it through the growing pains of boyhood to manhood. And so understand the difference between the male and the man, and how to walk in their gift and their purpose. And so now I'm going to have to think differently about this. When you think about the virtual space and place and doing mentorship through a portal of a screen, and I've been doing some of that through conversations about boys to men and how to make that transition. And then what is it I'm over here dealing with as well, having conversations about not just the pandemic, but a mandemic. To where our brothers are seemingly.
Listen, that's a whole other show. That's a whole other Dr. Connor, it's a whole other show now. Listen,
that's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show.
That's a whole other show. How our brothers are literally lost in the space and this place of now dealing with other stressors in society, and now how this COVID has really unearthed a lot of trauma. And so dealing with post-traumatic slave syndrome and helping our brothers to make it through so many of those ramifications of what it is that they've grappled with in society. It is hard to do that when in many cases mentorship is about a fist bump. Mentorship is about give me some dap. Mentorship is about hey, let's go play some basketball, or let's go to the movie theater, or let's go out to eat, this, that, the other. And you got amalgamation, a coalition of 20, 30 brothers, whatever the case may be, ranging from all groups. Now you've got to try to synchronize that in different space and a place. And so now I'm trying to unravel that and unwrap it and see what is the way forward with that. And so I got to let my wheels of creativity turn and connect with some other people who might have found a silver lining at this. So it's much needed, it's necessary, because how can I be what I don't see? How can I become a man if I don't see one, much less interact with one? How do I play a role if I wasn't given a script?
I logged in, I'm sorry to cross you. I logged into, you had a conference, Jason Phillips, a mutual friend of ours, was hosting it.
Right.
And it was a bunch of different therapists and people just asking questions. And I loved it because as much as men run society, rule society, okay, the world has shifted to where women and young girls have been embraced and are taught now to, you know, love yourself, take care of yourself, have the wellness. And we're still treating our little boys and our Black little boys as suck it up, don't worry about that, tough love. And it's so needed for young Black men to have the foundation that you're trying to give to them. It's so needed that they see people who look like them with similar backgrounds, you know, close to their age, and influencing them and pushing them in the right direction, whatever direction that may be. And it's so needed. And I hope you figure it out. You better figure it out. I'm just saying, Dr. Carter, I need to figure it out, man. You know, you should can't with Obama. You better figure it out. You know, you like top 35 millennials in the nation or something like that. You better figure it out. There's pressure. I'm applying pressure.
Look at you. Pressure makes diamonds.
And yes. Before I let you go, I want to talk about, because I have to talk about your Steve Harvey appearance.
Oh my
goodness. Listen, I don't know why he didn't warn you. I have to talk about it because I
put me on blast now.
Oh, absolutely. You family now. I have to put you on blast. So that seemed like a far departure from everything about you. What made you go on? What was the was it just showing the example of you can't lump all men, which clearly is true. You can't lump all men in this category of this or that type of thing. What was it? Was the mission accomplished?
Boy, I'm really asked the question, shall we proceed now?
Yes.
No, you know, I was invited. I had this book out at one point called Heal Your Heart. And it was about relationships, healing from broken relationships. And it started to really just take off and have some legs. And so I happened just to be reached out to by a producer for the Steve Harvey show. And this is when the show was in Chicago at the time, prior to its move to LA. And so he asked me if I would come on as one of Michigan's most eligible bachelors. I said, oh my goodness. And it was a show called United Dates of America. And I'm in the green room, and they're, you know, smoke and mirrors. They're saying, hey, you know, what are you going to say when you go out there? And they kept coming into the room, asking me about 20 times. I basically had rehearsed it and learned it by heart. I'm coming out, and as I'm getting ready to come out of the room, I'm seeing this video vignette of the lady who I'm going to meet. And I'm telling you, she could be categorized, as Steve Harvey would probably say, she was the date from hell. First date.
I saw it.
Yeah. She's asking for your credit score, how much cash is in the bank.
Yes.
How much is on your credit cards, all of that. And I said, oh my goodness, what have I walked into? And I thought, you know, it was a good opportunity for me to, you know, you branding yourself, you on all in 50 states, and, you know, TV on 50 states, much less around the world. I didn't get any negative backlash from it. But when we got off the set, and after I met her, and Steve said, hey, you know what, y'all gonna go out, but we need to pray. We literally held hands and started praying. She says to me, I know you. I
Mm-hmm.
bought your book. I saw you at the billboard with the book, Heal Your Heart, so on and so forth. So, it wound up being pretty good for me because I guess I was categorized as kind of an expert in the relationship game and being invited to talk about relationships with Steve. And
Mm-hmm.
he's a king of comedy, straight up. He was able
Yes.
just to
Yes. Yeah.
he was just able just to rile the crowd up prior to even me coming out on set, doing his stand up bit. But it was a good experience. It was a good
I had
experience.
to bring it up. I was like, oh, they
Yeah.
coordinated. He had the red tie on. She had the red dress. She got a little flustered when you came out. She didn't know how to, she kept adjusting. I said, this is good. I'm going to bring this.
And you know what? They told me to change the color of my
Oh,
tie.
no, it was coordinate. It was coordinate.
You gotta coordinate.
Now coordinate. I was like, if he unbuttoned his jacket and the belt matches, we John Witherspoon in here. He coordinate.
Yeah,
I
Witherspoon
love
all day.
it. It was
Gotta
so good.
coordinate.
It was
Straight up.
so good. I was like,
Yeah.
what he doing on this show? What is he doing on this show?
I'm
It
telling
was,
you.
but
I sold more books, I tell you that much.
listen, amen. What I liked about it was, because Steve's not gonna put you in a position like I know the man, in any position that's gonna make you uncomfortable. You know what I mean? And of course, it's a win for you. It's a win for you, and you have to expose because there's so many women out there like that. I'm a woman. I'm telling you, I hear it, and there's so many men who don't deserve that. No one deserves that, and it's all about blocking your blessing, right? And showing you as a woman, don't do this. Don't. That's not the hotness. That's not the way to do things. And you know how the face just breaks when you realize you're talking to a person who's, just highly educated and all decorated, and it's like, oh, I can't, because you don't want me asking you those questions because I've been like, so what's your credit score? You know what I mean? So I thought it was hilarious when I was, because I remember watching that show when it came out years ago. I remember that. And I was like, the same person. When I saw the clip again, I said, oh, I will bring this up. It shall happen. I do not care. So I want to say thank you for indulging me in that.
No,
Thank
absolutely.
you for coming on and sharing your experiences, sharing your book, sharing your wisdom. And your 10 books prior, purposefully prepared to preserve collections of reflections, econ, the icon, which I think is I love that title. The pop culture to Barack Obama, unwrap the gift in you. The book that got you on, Steve Harvey, Heal Your Heart.
Yes.
Heal that heart. My brother's keeper, Dear Queen. Okay, Dear Queen.
That's right.
Woman, Wife, and 2020 Vision. And now the most recent must read that I don't care what you look like and who you are. AmerICan'tBreathe. Red, White, Blue, Black Lives, and Unmasking Race in America. Dr. Eddie Connor, young man, thank you. Well, thank you, young man.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, young man.
Black don't crack. Brown won't let you down. Beige don't age.
What?
Tan got a plan.
Hey,
Even
come
lighter
on,
do you right.
come on. But I want to say thank you so much for coming on my platform, sharing who you are, sharing your knowledge. I hope to have you on again. I'll go through all the right channels. I hope to have you on again to share whatever you're doing in the future. Please, please, please keep doing it because we need it. Our young men need it. Our society needs it. And I think going into 2020, you're going to be doing some amazing things and shaking them up and making them really want to know, oh, you really don't know your place, huh? Like, no, I do. My place is everywhere.
That's right. That's right.
Any last words? All of it. All of this. Anything else you want to add, Dr. Connor?
Listen, I want to just thank you again for the space and place to be able to share on your incredible platform.
Thank you.
Elise, you gave us the most. I mean, you are really doing incredible work, and you're the voice of choice. And so we honor you as a queen, quintessentially unique, empowering everyone naturally. And so you're using your voice to really speak truth to power in this hour, and we're grateful for it. I would love for your listeners and your viewers to be able to check me out: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. at Eddie Connor Jr. Please put some respect on my name, EDDIECONNORJR. You can also get this incredible book, AmerICan'tBreathe. So glad that you vouched for it and gave your recommendation, but also your stamp of approval. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, Audible. It is not only a hard copy, an ebook, but even as well an audiobook. So it'll be a great addition to your library. So thank you again for the opportunity.
And I want to say thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. Everyone, please make sure you buy the books. I need you to buy all 11. Not 11. 11. I need to buy all 11. Let me stop. I need to buy all 11 books, please. And just open your heart and mind, no matter where you are in your walk. Read the book, understand the book, and know who you are, and hopefully pass it on to someone else. No, buy one for someone else so they can read it. And I want to say thank you, Dr. Connor, so much for being here. I will talk to all of you later. Bye.